Hey, welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast. I'm your host, Sal Interdonato. The Black Knight Nation podcast is brought to you by Higher Echelon. Higher Echelon is a company run by Joe Ross, former Army fullback, former Army assistant coach, former Army officer, guest on the Black Knight Nation podcast. Check our YouTube channel out. We're gaining subscribers left and right here. We have Jeff Monken's press conference from yesterday. We have the alma mater from yesterday, a video of the alma mater from yesterday after the Syracuse game. We also have Jacoby Buchanan and Leo Lowen's press conference taken by my iPhone. So it's straight, Seth, we'll talk a little bit about where our the press conference was. It wasn't Randall Hall for sure, or the Kimsey Center. I'll tell you that much. But we'll go into that a little bit later. We have Seth Mendelson of Black Knight Nation and Brendan in Jersey here to review. We may have other people drop by tonight. We'll see how it goes. Guys, if you're watching right now, send in your comments, your questions if you like to watch, and we'll answer them. Army 29-16 loss at Syracuse yesterday. And to be honest with you guys, I could care less about the score at the end of the game. I could care less about who won, who lost. The main focus for me was Andre Miller. And when Andre Miller went down in the second half, fourth quarter, he was they were attending to him for quite a long time there when Andre went down. It was a kind of a friendly fire collision with a teammate, accidental. And, he was, carted off the field at, I'm going to still call it the Carrier Dome. And, he's taken to the local hospital there on campus. And good news today that Andre was released from the hospital there and is back at West Point. We have no updates on injuries, but we do know that he's no longer in the hospital in Syracuse, and he's now at West Point. There was a social media post of him. I'm not sure if it was a picture taken today or maybe a past picture, but hopefully of everything being fine. So I'm hoping that all prayers still up to Andre. I mean, that was something that I've never seen before. And, when it happens, I was like in my computer or on my phone tweeting or whatever, Xing or whatever they call it. And all of a sudden you see him down and his face is flat on the field. And that's a scary situation. So great that the Army medical staff was out there as soon as they could to get Andre the attention. I thought they handled it well. There's a reason why it took them a while to get Andre, up and out of the field. They were every thing possible they were checking out. And, at first, the Syracuse sideline really didn't know what was going on to a point, how severe the injury was. I'm sorry. And so there you had guys like just tossing around footballs, then guys in huddles getting ready to go back on the field. But once Army's team took a knee on the sidelines and Syracuse's team took a knee on the sidelines, it was pretty real. And then when they all come together, with Army, I think it was Isaiah Austin that I first started seeing sprinting from the sidelines to go into the middle and to wish Andre well, and all the team got together, the Black Knights and Syracuse's team got together. Man, that says a lot about the sportsmanship, and it says a lot about football. I don't know how you guys felt. You're watching it probably from TV, but just being there live, I mean, I got a little emotional, to be honest with you. I got a little emotional in the press box because you're just hoping for the best for the player at that time. Football is a very violent sport. And, Leo Lowen said, that the physicality of football, that's what you kind of sign up to play for. But when things like that happen, it's like you're taken back a little bit. So, Brendan, I don't know. We'll go to you first just on that to open up.
Yeah, I mean, anytime for me, anytime I'm watching a game and I see the trainers out there that long, the first thing I think of is I guess it was back in 2009 or 10, Army Rutgers, the Eric Legrand injury. Like you just pray that it's not on that level, and it doesn't seem to be the case, given that they've publicly said that he had feeling in his extremities and all that. But just super scary. I mean, when it's going on for like 10, 15 minutes, the trainers are still out there. There's like, of course, like you're not going to be getting updates in the moment. Um, but yeah, you know, certainly it was certainly hard to kind of focus on anything game related after that.
Yeah, Jeff Monken said in his press conference that he had staff at the hospital with Andre. I believe also his parents too. And so, when Jeff Monken's fielding questions about me asking him about Isaiah Austin's touches in the game, he's not kind of rushing out of the press conference, so to speak. You thought, okay, hope, and he told us, he had feeling in extremities and was responding to him. There's positive signs there, so it was good. That was good to hear. And then today, last night, I got a little bit of a notion that things were heading in the right direction or were in the right direction. And today they put out the, I didn't want to post anything. It's not until Army came out with a statement, I'm not posting anything on that until they come out with something, so that's what we did today. And Seth, what about you?
I was at the Army Rutgers game about 30 feet from where that play happened with Legrand with my son, who was 10 years old and maybe 11 years old. And I saw that play happen right in front of me, and it's very sad. I felt different with this play, with how they were treating him. They were obviously being very cautious, but not as cautious as they were 15, 14 years ago, whatever that was. I also noticed as they took him off the field, I thought I noticed him giving a thumbs up or a semi thumbs up. If you can do that, that's a great sign. And, let's hope for the best for this kid and Andre, for Andre. And, what I saw, it was bad. What I saw 14 years ago was worse. And my son kept saying to me, why doesn't he get up? And, the crowd, it was a mausoleum. It was in the, I think it was
MetLife. It was MetLife. Yeah, I covered the game. Yeah.
That's 2009. Then I opened in 2009, and the place was as quiet as can be for about 40 minutes. And the game resumed, but it was, not the same.
Yeah, just some note on Andre Miller. Andre is a guy who's really worked his tail off to get into the rotation for Army on the defensive line, and he's a really big kid. I mean, when pregame, when we were just seeing the guys come out for pregame and just seeing Andre, I mean, he's worked a lot to get into that rotation, and it was good to see him on the field when he was playing. And like we said, prayers to him and for a speedy recovery, and I hope everything's right. And if he can get back on the field, that would be great. Here's another person coming in with a speedy recovery, Andre. And yeah, all our best wishes are to Andre Miller and his family, and even the Army football family. Because honestly, when something like that happens, I mean, I'm watching the alma mater on the field, and I'm about maybe 5 feet away from the closest player singing the alma mater. And just when those guys are walking into the locker room, there's still a little shaken up about it. It's still a little shaken up about it. They want to get the news that their teammate and their brother's okay and it's going to be all right. And, even like for Jacoby Buchanan and Leo Lowen to get, to step to the podium and talk to, it was me and 2 other guys at the media, just to answer questions about the game and then answer questions about that situation. I mean, I give them a lot of credit for doing that too. And I mean, Leo Lowen and Jacoby Buchanan, you couldn't really ask for 2 better representatives of the Army program. So they handled the questions well, and they handled the questions about the game too, because I mean, we can get to the game a little bit now. It's a game where it's a tale of 2 halves, right? Army controlled the first half. That first drive was 9 minutes and 25 seconds, if I recalled. Is it 18 plays, 16 plays? Buchanan finishes it with a run, and Syracuse didn't have the ball much in the first half, and when they did have the ball, they didn't do much with it. I mean, with all honesty, we heard a lot of talk about Garrett Schrader before this game. In the first half, he was just an average, maybe even a below average college quarterback in the first half, in my opinion. Second half, they got Army stopped them that first time, right, guys? They stopped them on 4th down, and you're like, here's a little bit of momentum, but they couldn't do anything with it. And I have a stat for Army in the second half that I don't really want to mention on this. I have to mention later, but I mean, the offense just couldn't do anything. and Syracuse offense moved the ball. And for me personally, watching the game, Army's success in the first half had a lot to do, in my opinion, with the getting this short passing game going, and that opened up the run a little bit, right? Noah Short had 4 catches for only 20 yards, but at least it put into Syracuse's mindset that, hey, maybe they'll go to the air every once in a while, right? And what did Syracuse do in this at the third quarter? They threw that 5 to 8 yard out, right, on first down a lot. They got a short second down, or even if it was a third down, and they consistently threw that. And Army just, I don't know, they weren't defending it, and they gave Syracuse. Then Syracuse will throw the ball downfield for maybe 20 yards, and then there they go for some scoring drives. So I don't know. I thought honestly that at halftime I was talking to somebody that I really respect about Syracuse football. He's covered a ton of Syracuse games, and I'm like, they don't look like a 3-0 team to me here in the first half. And then maybe I should have kept my mouth shut. So what do you think, Seth? You're a Syracuse alum, so this is the one podcast where I'll allow you to talk about Syracuse football. So.
Why do I always talk about Syracuse? Why is that? I agree with you. It's a tale of two halves, and Army just dominated. I thought the short passing worked. I thought the running game to Buchanan worked. Obviously, at halftime, Syracuse changed their strategy a bit. I didn't think Army did. If they did, I didn't notice it. In fact, what I thought, and I'm not a football player, I'm not a college football player or a coach, what I thought is that Army got a little bit conservative in their offensive approach. And
again,
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. And that it made it easier for Syracuse. I noticed in the first game, and I noticed again in the second half of this game, the first game against Monroe, when we play conservative, we don't do well. When he opens it up, when the whoever it is, the coaches open it up, the players open it up, they play really well. That's why I think we beat UTSA. So I didn't see that. The other thing that kind of bothered me was there was no pressure on Schrader in the second half. He had plenty of time to do what he wanted to do, and he did it. And it opened up the offense for them. And we seemed gassed midway through, late in the third quarter. Seemed a bit gassed defensively, and Syracuse dominated. Why did Syracuse dominate? They probably have better athletes. Let's be honest.
I don't want to go there to a point.
Okay, they whatever it might be, but they dominated the second half and they won the game. You know what? The bottom line for me is I didn't expect Army to win. I hope they would. I predicted they would. I was wrong. Been wrong 2 weeks in a row now. I think we got to put this one behind us, and we got to really focus on Boston College and Troy because these are important games.
Take it away, Brendan.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, first drive, 75 yards, 9 minutes, 25 seconds, 7 points. I mean, it was the perfect start to that game. And then, the defense played well, but they also had a missed opportunity. There was, there was a ball in the defensive back's hands that could have gone for another 6-7 points, and he just dropped it. And and then at halftime, I figured Syracuse wouldn't be panicking because they basically took Army's best shot, and they were only down by 1 score, and they were getting the ball back to start the second half. So what did they really have to panic about? And it's I love when Army goes on long drives. I think the whole country loves when they do that. It gets a lot of attention on Twitter. When they have these pretty much 6, 7, 8, however many minute long drives. But as Rich Ellerson used to say, if you're not scoring touchdowns, you're just getting home sooner.
Rich Ellerson,
yeah, and ultimately the point of an offense is to outscore the other team, and they had that magic working in the first half, and I agree with Seth. I think for whatever reason, psychologically, whatever, they kind of took their foot off the gas pedal a little bit in the third quarter, and they could just never recover from that. And Syracuse adjusted on their offensive end, and our defense just could not figure that out. So there's certainly, I mean, Syracuse is a good team. I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to, go to the playoff or anything, but there's certainly no shame. And, Army, at least, depending on when you placed your bet and who you placed your bet with, you either won at, plus 13.5 or got a push at plus 13. So,
Yeah.
it's like on the surface, it's not the worst result in the world, but that second half is it's just hard to forget, much like the second half against ULM. This is 2 games out of 4 now where the second half and especially the fourth quarter has been a disaster. And
but ULM, the defense was the offense had a little bit of a problem, but the defense seemed to let down. In this game, it was definitely a change in philosophy in the offense to me. I noticed even on the very first drive, we stopped Syracuse on 4 downs, got the ball back, and nothing happened. And of course, that was the tone for the rest of the game, basically, for Army. I don't know what they did differently, but it just didn't seem to me that they were doing the first half. They seemed to be having fun. Now, you gain 6 yards on a carry, you're having fun. You get a 10-yard a pass for a first down, you're having fun. That didn't happen in the second half. But I saw more panic. First it was super conservative, and then at the end, or near the end, there was a sense of panic. The fourth.
Well, you're down 2 scores and you're running out of time, so you're gonna press a little bit. I mean, that's what you do, Seth. You don't sit, But I don't know. I just think that there were some missed opportunities in the first half, right? With that potential pick 6, and then the interception on the final play of the half. Cam Jones had the interception, and Monken thought maybe if guys kind of maneuvered themselves the right way, maybe he could have got to the end zone, or maybe, I don't know. Maybe he said something that maybe something more he wished that something more could have came out of that, but I don't want to put words into people's mouths. But my thing is, Rocky Long, the defensive coordinator of Syracuse, made adjustments at halftime, right? And it seemed like, to me, I'm watching from the press box. I'm trying to watch everything possible, but seemed like they clogged up the middle a little bit more, right, with their defense. They seemed to stack up the line a little bit more, and they were almost saying, "Okay, you want to throw? We're going to stop. We're going to totally try to shut down your run," and that's what they did. So here's the stat: the first 16 plays of Army's second half, minus 4 yards total. I mean, you're just not. I mean, and I mean, you gotta, like you guys say, you gotta try something. I don't know, but I mean, there were some incomplete passes in there, maybe a couple. But the thing is, too, is that from the start, first off, I want to say Bryson Daly played his tail off again. Bryson Daly played his tail off. He played physical. The one hit he had on the defensive back from Syracuse, where he just pancaked him while he was running, trying to get the first down. I mean, there's a video somewhere on social media. Coach Monken said that they thought he lost his helmet because of the violence of what happened with the hit. He didn't lose his helmet, but he had a bloody nose from it. So they had him out for that one play for the bloody nose, and then they got him right back in. So he just missed one play. He played his tail off. And like in the second half, when you're down, you're on the road, you're setting up your for the most part, they were third and longs a lot in the second half, right? And you have to throw the ball, and Syracuse is going to bring a blitz or some pressure, and you got to make some split second decisions, and sometimes it's going to go your way and sometimes it's not. And sure, there are some throws that all quarterbacks would like to have back, and but I mean, I thought he played his tail off in that end. The score is the score, right? That 80-yard pass to Noah Short. We were wondering where was that play earlier in the game, right? Or where was that even play call maybe earlier in the game? But maybe not first half, but maybe second half. It would have been
that ended up being a field goal, right? We
80 yards to Noah Short.
right.
The last touchdown.
Oh, the last touchdown. Right. Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the last touchdown.
Right,
yeah,
right.
80 yards to Noah Short.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I mean, and that shows you a little bit of Noah Short, because Noah Short had some burners to get to the end zone, right? He caught it maybe, I'm guessing, at the 30, and then kind of outraced the Syracuse defensive backs to the end zone. So that's a good sign.
This is 2 games I'm impressed with Noah Short. 2 games in a row. He really is coming on.
Absolutely.
And he's coming off the bench. He played a little bit the first 2 games. He started game 3. I believe he's a sophomore. Is that correct?
Yeah, he's a sophomore.
Yes, a young guy, and he's done very well. He's done very well. Sal, I'm just going to say it. If you said to me, Seth, pick 2 games you're certain that Army's not going to win this year, I would pick LSU and Syracuse. And
I would not pick those games.
Well,
I pick LSU and maybe Air Force, not Syracuse.
Yeah, I think Syracuse is a better team than Air Force. Force hasn't played anybody yet.
I want to get into.
I think Air Force is a good team, but I think Syracuse. Okay, but having said that, the spread was 13. To Brendan's point, the spread was 13 and a half, and that's exactly where it finished. So we played a very good first half, a very mystifying second half, and they beat us. And I'd like to think that we're going to learn off of this. I think just like we learned off of the Monroe game, and we have a week off. And BC is beatable. It's home. Troy is beatable. They're home. LSU is LSU. We know the deal there. And then, we have an interesting schedule the rest of the way. Air Force is potentially a good team. They've beaten nobody yet. They're 4-0. I watched the game late on Friday night, and I saw a very impressive game. But I think there's something good can come out of this. And I think that if they can go back to that mentality of the first half, the mentality of the UTSA game, even Delaware State, which is a different animal. I think something good will come out of this.
I don't really want to break down schedules, really, but to be honest, I did want to mention this point, and before the Andre Miller injury, I was going to go into a rant about this right at the start of this podcast. I was going to go into the rant about the play where Ijon Marshall ran like the outside play, and he was tackled, and the Syracuse player, Justin Barron, I believe, did the gator tackle and basically ripped his ankle like 2 or 3 seconds after Marshall was down. And no flag. Officials there. No unnecessary roughness on that play, right? There's nothing. And to a point why Marshall's being tended to by our Army medical staff again, you have Dino Babers talking to 3 officials about a call that his guy tossed Markel Johnson to the ground after the whistle and got called for 15 yards. So he's trying to talk to the officials about, that call and trying to get calls more for Syracuse when you got a Army guy who had his ankle ripped off by a Syracuse player 2 feet away. And now Ijon Marshall is going to be out. It's got to be like a pretty good ankle sprain, I imagine. He was hobbling a little bit after the game. If we see Ijon Marshall at Boston College, I will be shocked. But, Ijon Marshall's lost to a game or games possibly because of this. And, no penalty, no call. But here's my other part of that. Army had the ball around the 40-yard line of their 40-yard line. You get that unnecessary roughness call. The game is 10-10. The game is 10-10 at that point. You get that unnecessary roughness call, 15 yards. You're in Syracuse territory. Who knows if you move the ball or not, but at least you could play a little bit more of a field position game, maybe pin Syracuse back on their goal line. But there's no call there. And I don't know. You guys were watching. See, like I said, I'm in the press box. You guys might see a little bit more on TV than I do. I see certain things. You see others. There was another pass interference penalty that should have been called against Noah Short in the end zone. Is that right or no?
Yeah. They pointed that out on TV.
Yeah, I saw it too.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Here, pray for Coach Short says pray for Miller and Marshall, and Vin Davis says they hurt our guy definitely committed it for sure. And I mean, then that got the Justin Bannon guy, or he has a pick later in the game, right? He had a pick later in the game. He was the one who picked off Marshall. Bryson Daly, sorry, I think later in the game. And it's just like, I'm not saying you disqualify the guy for unnecessary roughness, but you call a penalty.
Oh, I see. I think those Gator rules should be reviewable, like targeting, and should be an automatic ejection, because it goes beyond like a football play or even like, you know, mysterious things that happen in the pile. I mean, it's just like a blatant attempt to take a guy out of the game, and it's way more clear cut than like targeting ever could be. It's just like there's a guy, he's rolled up on the guy, he does like an extra twist on the ground to try to rip his ankle.
And there was no remorse from that guy either. You know, Marshall's on the ground for a couple minutes. I guess you're in the moment, but maybe make sure the guy's okay that you just ripped the ankle off of. I don't know.
You don't see that much. You don't see that, you don't see, in college football, you don't see people coming over often to do that. Once in a while, somebody will do it.
So there was great sportsmanship in the Andre Miller situation, right?
That's a whole different story. Yeah.
That's good sportsmanship. Here it's like, and fighting for like Babers fighting for calls, and when the Army player's 2 feet away, calling an official around, hey, why did you call my guy from tossing the guy after the whistle? I don't know. And I'm just, this is a rant, guys. This is a rant.
Doesn't every coach do that? I mean, I've seen that a million times. I thought it was a dirty play too. I saw the play and I thought it was a dirty play. But every coach in football is always going to go to the refs and try to get them to call them their way.
But I'm thinking, like, you're going to complain about calls and your guy just ripped an ankle off of a person. He didn't get called for it. So you just got a favorable call. It usually, for the most part, balances out. You hope it balances out during a game. There's passes where, there was a pass down the sideline where it looked like Isaiah Austin was interfered with. Yeah, the guy was all over him down, but no call. I mean, you're on the road. You're playing a Power 5 team. The thing is, I believe they're ACC officials, but I think Army has ACC officials for their home games too. So, I don't know. The game wasn't lost on that call, but maybe the momentum maybe Army could have gained some momentum if there was a penalty called. Maybe, I don't know. There's my rant. I guess I'm done. Here's Coach Short checking in. Army has potential to be a dominant on offense, easily win the last 4 games, Miami style with competitive percentage. Okay, we're still a running team, and this offense was stall. Love the podcast. Thanks, Coach Short. Really appreciate you coming on. Really appreciate your comments. So, that was my rant. I don't know if you guys have any other, takes on the game or interesting, a game that looked like they could have had it in the first half, and then just second half just wasn't there.
My take again is what I said before. We got to take this and say, what can we do with it? And
yeah,
I think there's a lot that can be done with this because we showed that we can keep up with at least a middle of the road, if not better, ACC team. They're not going to win the league, I don't believe. Will they beat Clemson next week? I don't know. They're not going to beat FSU down there or North Carolina and North Carolina. But this is a decent team, and we played them extremely well for a half. And then we fell apart in the second half. They improved. Well, it wasn't just because Army fell apart. It may be even more because Syracuse improved. But there's a lot to be gained from this. And I think that with the week off and with the knowledge of what they have, and I've met these kids, these Army players, and boy, they want to win. This is a real close-knit team, and they have the momentum. The coaching, I think Monken's doing a really good job off the field and hopefully on the field too. I think he's done a good job in 2 of the 4 games, and I'm not blaming him for the loss of the other 2, but things happened. But I'm going to focus on going forward here. And what did we learn? We are 2-2 now, going into the meat of the schedule, the Murderer's Row that Monken called it. We're 1-1 in Murderer's Row. We got 3 games left. Plus, you got Air Force hanging around in November at Air Force. Okay, those are really the 4 big games of the season. Navy is always Navy, but we'll worry about that later. But you got these games, and I think BC is beatable. I think Troy's beatable. They got to play a good game. Hey, we didn't turn the ball over in the first half, I believe. Is that correct? Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was two interceptions in the second half.
Okay, now it was panic time a little bit. Okay, so I thought they did very well with ball control. They did great with possession. Something happened in the second half. Part of it was due to Syracuse. Part of it was due to Army. Let's improve what Army can do, and I think that they'll take something from it. I think they're going to win big against BC.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great time for a bye week in so many ways. I mean, the Andre Miller situation, I'm glad for these guys that they don't have to turn around immediately and have to prep for another football game this week. Certainly like resting up their bodies a little bit. But yeah, I agree. I think BC and Troy are definitely beatable. And I mean, I don't know. It's so early in the season to be talking bowl scenarios, but I know one of Army's goals every year is to go undefeated at home. I think they can, and if they do, they'll be bowl eligible. Like, it's as simple as that. I think I said after the Delaware State game, like, I'm not really, like, it's still, I mean, we're a third of the way through the season now, but pretty much all of their goals are still on the table, and they can still, there's still a lot that they have within their control to do this season. So I always believed in this offensive changeover. It's going to have fits and starts. Hopefully it's a smoother operation for the rest of the season, and they learn that, especially if you're going up against a team that's, maybe bigger and stronger than you, you can't ever take your foot off their throat, not for a second.
Good point. Yeah, good point. Couple things just wanted to get to. Guys, if you're watching right now, have any comments and questions, send them our way. We're going to be getting off soon. But I just wanted to, a couple things that Jimmy Charlo had his third sack of the year this in the second half of this game. Jackson Powell was in the middle of that fourth down stop. Jackson Powell's really stepped up his game this year with some big plays on defense. The defense was missing Max DiDomenico at safety, and they were missing Spencer Jones at inside linebacker. So Caleb Fortner played for Spencer Jones, got his first career sack in the first half. Casey Larkin and Aaron Bibb. Casey Larkin started in Max's spot, and Aaron Bibbins got some playing time also at safety. Max was a little bit missed, and I'll tell you why. So Syracuse, Seth, help me out with their offense. They run more of a spread. They have at least 3 wide receivers in the game most of the time, right?
Correct, yes.
So you need kind of a nickel back, right? You need a guy, you need that fifth defensive back out there. And so what they usually do when they have 5 DBs is they have Casey Larkin come in, play safety, move Max up more closer to the line of scrimmage. They didn't have Max on Saturday against Syracuse, and maybe, who knows, I mean, is coverage going to be a little bit better on those shorter routes that Syracuse was throwing? I don't know, but they really in the past couple of years, they really had a guy to play nickel, right? They were able to bring in nickel backs and have some success there. Right now, their nickel back is also one of their starting safeties, the way I see it. Maybe the way they design stuff, I'm looking at it wrong. But so I don't know. They were missing, in my opinion, they were missing Max a little bit on the defensive side, at least in the coverage schemes and stuff like that. He's a really smart player. He seems to be, he seems to find the football pretty well. And, it certainly would have helped having him out there. I don't know what his injury is. I don't know what the extent of it is. Spencer Jones either. I will say this, that they got Shane Buckingham back on the field this game. David Hoyt started again at left tackle. Shane Buckingham came in, I believe, like late first half, early second half, and he got back on the field. So that's a good sign for Army's offensive line. Hoyt played really well against UTSA. Against Syracuse, Syracuse was really a pretty active defensive front, and Army's offensive line in general had a little bit of issues with Syracuse. So they made the move for more experienced Buckingham in the second half, and So he got back on the field. Tyrell, a lot of people are asking me about Tyrell Robinson, right? And when we might see Army's explosive slot back in action. And I even got like people asking me, is he gonna redshirt this year? Is Tyrell Robinson gonna redshirt this year? Well, they don't really do red shirts at Army to a point, right? So but I think you're gonna see him at one of these 2 home games coming up. I'm thinking. I've always thought Boston College would be the time to get him back on the field. It'd be about a year outside of his injury. I thought that after a bye week 2 and stuff. So I think that we may see Tyrell Robinson against Boston College or Troy. And if we see that, guys, Brendan, I'll be interested to see like his role in this offense. Will he be a back? Will he be a slot receiver? They'll probably put him. You probably can move him around. He probably can be very versatile in this offense. And man, if the C's part in the middle and Tyrell Robinson is going to run through, I think he's going to have the speed that he had before the injury. So if that's the case, then it helps the offense certainly.
Yeah, I mean, you could certainly you could put him anywhere on the field, and he's probably going to be a matchup problem more often than not. But I mean, they did have some success on certain inside plays with him last season. So I wouldn't be shocked if they line him up at the whatever not like fullback, not fullback position. I don't know, the dive back position. But yeah. Sal, before we go, do you mind if I go on a bit of a college football rant?
Right ahead. That's what we're here for, Brendan. We're here for your football rants. Go right ahead.
I love college football rants.
Yeah. Okay. So I am absolutely sickened by this latest round of conference realignment that has essentially led to the death of the Pac-12. These college presidents, for 30 years, anytime somebody tries to do something good for the players, they say, no, we can't do that. Tradition. And the minute that these guys can grind out $5 more of TV money, they throw it all in the garbage to chase the almighty dollar. These people are money grubbing whores. It makes me sick. And there's, and here's the thing: if all these conferences were just football only, that's fine. But there's no reason for Rutgers women's basketball to fly to LA for conference games. That's absolutely ridiculous.
How about field hockey?
Any sport that's not football or even basketball, like men's basketball, like. It's ridiculous. You have so many people crying these days, like, we can't afford this, we can't afford that. If anything, conferences should be back to what they were, which is more hyper regional to cut down on travel costs. And they just want to go bigger so they can get, $2.50 more TV money than they did the previous fiscal year. I can't believe this is happening.
So can I comment? Brendan, are you for or against the Army's move to the AAC if it happens?
I personally don't want it to happen. I know people are very concerned that they quote unquote can't survive as an independent if things continue to go the way they are. I don't know. I mean, I feel like any conference. Certainly, like certainly a conference on the level of American would always have an invitation extended. I don't see that we need to accept anything, unless our hand is absolutely forced by circumstance.
Sal, can I comment on Brendan's comment? Because
very shortly. Go ahead.
Brendan, I totally agree with you, but it's not just the college presidents. It's the coaches across the board making $2, $3, $4, $5 million a year. It's the assistant coaches at many schools making over $1 million a year. It's the recruiting budgets going out of control. It's paying for all these other sports that make no money, and they want to keep them going. Stanford tried to scale back last year from 36 sports or 34 sports to 20 something, and they got so much pushback that they couldn't do it. But how do you pay that? You got to pay these coaches money, these other coaches in other sports. And in the defense of the college presidents and anybody else involved, they need this money to survive. Rutgers is $100 million in debt because they joined the Big Ten, and they had to spend all this money to keep up. And it was a great honor to join the Big Ten. Everybody in New Jersey, we're from New Jersey. I think all three of us are, right? And it was a big honor to get into the Big Ten because it's a prestigious association, athletically and academically. But it's cost Rutgers a fortune to try to compete in it, and they haven't done a very good job in it thus far, especially in football. They're doing a pretty good job in men's basketball. Happening is a sign of the times. My prediction, and I'll stop here, Sal, my prediction is it's going to get crazy before this is over. What I mean by that, my final sentence is that I would not be surprised if some of these major leagues, the four big ones left, start kicking teams out so they can make more money for the teams. So a Rutgers or a Vanderbilt or give me somebody else, a Georgia or a Syracuse might be asked to leave. They'll pay them off a little bit, give them $50 million to go away, and they'll be asked to leave. So these other teams, Michigan, Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, et cetera, can make even more money. That's what I think is coming, not necessarily next, but that's the next step after this round is done. And this round might be done after, Army and Oregon State and Washington State. Somebody from Oregon State made an interesting proposal, have relegation like they do in soccer in Europe. You take 64 teams in one league and maybe, 56 of them stay, but the bottom 8 go to the second league and they.
Yeah, it's never going to happen. Never going to happen.
It's an interesting thing, but
not really.
After Oregon State, Washington State, and Army get seated someplace, get placed somewhere, if Army does it, it's going to slow down for a bit. But then the next round's going to come up because they're going to need even more money because these coaches want more money and everybody else does too. So that's the only thing I'll say about it. It's a sign of the times.
You know what, Brendan? I think that was a winded rant by Seth. I think it was longer than mine and your rants, but we'll let it slide for tonight. We'll let it slide for tonight.
Listen, the only conference I respect anymore is the MAC. They know who they are and they stick to it.
And the Ivy League. How about the Ivy and the Patriot League? Come on, those are good conferences.
Well,
I'm talking FBS football strictly.
We're talking. Come on, let's go. We don't talk FCS football here. The only when Army beats up FCS teams at Mikey Stadium. Real quick, guys, check out our website. My game stories up there from live from Syracuse, the Carrier Dome. I could write a book on probably my experiences, but I'll wait. I'm still venting about that. We also have Ed Diller was there with me. His photo gallery has some really good photos in the photo gallery to check out. I'm going to write a quick thoughts story probably later tonight, early tomorrow. Have a day off to do that. Just check out our stuff. Sarah, you wrote a pretty good Seth, your story advancing the Syracuse Army game did really well on our website, giving you your props there. And I got to write a real quick Caleb Fortner story too for our website too. That's on there prior to the Syracuse game. Like I said, check out our YouTube channel. We have the press conferences from yesterday, our recaps from the past. Got to get some guests on for the Black Knight Nation podcast as far as former players. Got to work on that a little bit better for you guys, but numbers are up. We really appreciate it. And my one last thing I have to shout out, and Seth, you're not allowed to comment about your NFL team winning today, but I'm allowed to comment about my NFL team beating the Cowboys today. And I just want to give a shout out to Troy Lindley, a former Army football player who we had on our podcast. He's out in Arizona there. And shout out to you, Troy, and the Cardinals win today. Big win over the Cowboys. And now we're going to start our roll. We got to cut this. We got to cut this podcast out now. But guys, thanks for joining us. Brendan, appreciate you coming on. on the road with Brendan there and his takes on not only Army football, but the whole college football landscape. We really appreciate that. And Seth, as always, guys, we'll see you soon. We got a bye week coming up. Let me try to get some former football players on for some interviews in the next week or so. We'll be back here soon. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Beat 'em.